And I just want to say it's a wonderful pleasure to be in your midst, to be back here in Australia, and to see familiar faces. So I feel at home. I really miss being here because it's just so comfortable, just being here. I have a job to do, and by God's grace, I'm going to try to do it as well as I can. And every class that we're going to be going through is going to be real important because they connect. And I have a certain way that I go through this training. And people always ask, well, how can you learn it that fast? But you can. You can learn it that fast. It's 36 years of perfecting methods and techniques on how to train people. And so we have trained a lot of people, probably over 200 people a year. So, and that's been going for many years. So I'm quite confident that you will grasp it. This first class is no doubt about it, the most important one. And then I'm going to be going through some chops. If you can learn the chop system, then you can treat every disease it is. If you can learn the chop system. And it's not complicated, but you'll see that a little later on. Before we get started, let's have a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, which art in heaven, dear Lord, we are grateful this morning to be alive and to be in the midst of your people. And dear Father, to be about your business. Lord, thank you so much for calling me into this word. For Lord, I can find nothing greater than what you was able to give me. And I'm grateful. Now, Heavenly Father, I've come to do your will. And I ask, Lord, that you enable me through your Holy Spirit, that I may do the things that are pleasing in your sight, that I may give to them what you have given me, and Lord, they may give to others, and that the work will be finished. In Christ's name, amen. Amen. Now, I have a few questions I want to ask. I guess I'm assuming that most of everyone in here can see, can hear, and can feel, right? All right, now, the first test that I'm going to give you will be the foundation of your learning. You must learn how to see. You must learn how to feel, and you must learn how to listen. The majority of the people don't know how to do these everyday principles. They don't know them. They have eyes, but they cannot see. They have ears, they cannot hear, and they are too busy to be sensitive enough to feel. You must desensitize yourself. You must do it, because if you don't, you may become a medical missionary, but you will never reach the level of a medical missionary that will surpass the majority of the people you will run into. You got to be the very best at what you call to be. Now, if you're not called to do this work, then, you may want to take another perspective of it. I recognize that we have come to a time when every person is to be a medical missionary. But not every person would be a medical missionary physician. I train medical missionary physicians. I don't necessarily put a lot of emphasis in medical missionaries. There's a lot of people are doing a great job at that, teaching you about lifestyle and 8 doctors, which is the foundation of everything we're about. But I'm assuming that most of you already should have had that before you signed up for this class, because I don't want to spend a lot of time in those areas. I'm looking at you as someone that has already been preparing yourself to take the next level. But I don't want to go any faster than the slowest person here. It serves no purpose to go through all what we're going to go through for the next 2 weeks, and you really didn't grasp it. So I don't want that. I don't feel bad if you slowing the class up, slowing it down. I don't mind that. But I just want you to learn it. And so my first question is, well, the first thing I want you to do, I want, I'm sorry, I'm the worst person with names, so I'm going to just point at you and tell you to come up. I want my brother here and you behind him, I want you two to come right up here front. You two, right here on this rope. Yeah, you both come up here. And I want you to, you come over here. I want you to shake his hand. Okay? Okay, you can turn it loose. Did you notice anything? Okay? You shake his hand. Okay? Now turn it loose. Did you notice anything? Okay, now tell us what you noticed.
I feel
okay, kind of speak up.
I feel his hands move.
Okay, you felt his hand move? Okay, anything else?
Temperature.
Okay, what did you notice with his temperature?
Maybe lukewarm or not really cold, not really hot, just...
All right. Now, what did you feel when you shook his hand?
First of all, we have, see, we both from the Cook Islands, we have, when we shake hands, Cook Islanders, we don't squeeze the hands like the white people do. And that they really squeeze the hands. But we just sometimes we can just like, put the hand beside it just to grab the hand. And warmth, I felt the warmth.
Okay. All right, let me shake your hand. Now what I'm doing is I'm checking your bone structure out. And when you can turn my hand loose. When I turn, okay. All right. Now let me check yours. Okay, now do it, well, normally I do it real fast. Okay, let me shake it again. Now turn loose. I've checked it out. Your hands feels good, no problem. I want 2 other people to come up here. No problem, let's try 2 more. 2 more people to come up. Okay, let me shake your hand. Okay, turn loose, all right. Let me do it again. Okay, very good. His hand is okay. It's okay. Yeah. I'll tell you what I'm doing in a little bit. Okay, wait, just hold up a minute. Let me do it again. Okay, you stay right here. Another person. Okay, you stay right here. Another person. You can go back to seat. Another person. Now what I'm doing, I'm just going through an exercise. I'm teaching you how to see, how to feel, and how to listen. And it's just one of the exercises. Okay? You can sit down. What you got to do, you got to train your mind. It's an exercise. You train your mind to notice everything. Everything about a person. All right, you can take your seat. Okay, come back a minute. Okay, let's turn to the side just a little bit. Okay, you stay right here. Another person. I'm just, like I said, just a quick exercise before we get into our class. Okay, you stay right here. Okay, another person. All right.
Nothing.
All right. Okay, you can have a seat. Okay, maybe one other person.
Come on, Bessie.
There's nothing wrong with these young guys. These young men, there's nothing wrong with them. So. They ain't been around long enough to have messed up on them, so don't have to worry about that. And you can have your seat. Okay, now first of all, I'll start right here. She have a little calcium buildup right here. I can feel it right here. When I shook her hand, you come here, bro, I'm gonna let you feel it. It's a little hard ball that's developing right there. It's on this bone right here.
Can I touch it?
What causes it?
I'll explain it later. Okay?
Do you want to pass my hand?
Okay.
Break that.
Now, let me just go through in her
So
situation.
it's actually there or there?
No, it's right here.
There.
Right here. She's got a little calcium buildup. That means that another thing about her is, now look, please, I don't want nobody to get offended about what I say. It's not about that. It's about, I want you to learn, okay? Because I see things that a lot of people don't pay attention to. I train myself to be like an x-ray when I look at people. And I look at everything. Because you got to do that. You're not going to have the machinery. You're not going to have the medical apparatus. You got to become a human machinery. And you got to train yourself so disciplined that you watch everything. So don't be offended, because all of us got problems. I'm the chief of problems, all right? Now, one thing about her hips are too small. That means her pelvic bone is lacking calcium, all right? She's got to work on her calcium buildup. Her calcium is not assimilating. As a woman's hips should be larger because her backbone, her jawbone, and her hip bones have the greatest amount of calcium in her body. If a woman's hips are small, there's going to be some problems with calcium problems. Later on in life, possibly some osteoporosis. So you really need to get on something to really get your calcium level up. That's what I perceive. Okay, now you're probably healthier than most people in here. But I noticed your hips yesterday, and then I picked up a little calcium in your hand.
I do a lot of walk. I lose a lot, I tone down a lot when I walk.
Right.
I've noticed like a few years ago, I did less, and I was a lot bigger.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Well, I mean, it could be. I mean, what happens is if you're getting a lot of exercise,
I do 2 walks every day.
How far? I mean.
The first one in the morning is about half an hour, and then the second one sometimes varies from 20 minutes to half an hour.
Okay, your body fat level is down, which means your estrogen level is off. And then as your body fat drops, your androgen and testosterone level will increase. And that's the male hormone. Everybody in here have male and female hormones. Okay, because we come from, it's 23 chromosomes of the mother and 23 chromosomes of the father. That makes a human being. Okay, so I have female hormones and male hormones. My dominant hormone is my male hormones. Your dominant is your female. But if you exercise a lot, extremely a lot, you burn up the body fat, and then you could throw off the balance of your estrogen.
Is that too much?
I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I'm just saying, I just think you need to probably make sure that you're not consuming too many grains that could interfere with your calcium. I don't know. To just be mindful of that. We'll deal with this a little later. I don't want to spend a lot of time on you. Okay, now, what my brother here is, he had a noticeable defect right there. All right, that could be an injury. You see that? You know what I'm talking about, don't you? He's got a crooked finger right there.
Oh, it's bent.
Yeah, it's bent.
Oh, okay.
And I could see the calcium right there. And I picked it up. Just time he reached his hand out, I picked up, he's got a calcium buildup right here in this joint here, and his finger's crooked, which is nothing, but it's just training to pick it up. Okay? Thank you. Okay? Now, what did y'all notice about him? You walk back up there and come back. Okay, turn around and come back. Y'all notice anything with him? Huh? He's bow-legged. He got a slight case of ricket. It's a problem with the calcium. I picked that up right quick. You picked it up too, right? It's got some ricket problem. Okay, and that's throwing his gait off. His gait is totally thrown off. One leg is actually, he's favoring one leg more than the other because one of the legs is more bow than the other one. So it's throwing his gait off. So he don't have just a fluid walk. Okay? Okay. Thank you, brother. Now with her right here, this is typical. You turn her to the side here. Right here, you can already see that osteoporosis is really trying to set in here because her neck is straight. It comes and bow up just a little bit, then go down. This here should never be round. It's very slight. It comes down and it bows and then go down. I don't know if y'all can see that. It's a slight bowing of the back of the shoulder blades. That's the very early stages of osteoporosis. That could be from a child could be, she could have nursed a child or something, could have took more calcium out of her than she wanted to give. But either way, it's affecting her back. Okay? So those are just simple things. Now also, when he shook the hand, he felt the temperature. I do that too. You know, you check the temperature, you check everything. So when you're working with people, learn to really watch them and study. Study what's supposed to be right. And anything that don't meet that criteria is wrong. It's hard to pick it up if you don't know what's the original, what's right, what's supposed to be right. It's going to be very difficult to pick it up. But these are the three fundamentals that I teach. I teach how to see. Now, let me ask you this. How do you see? Can someone tell me how do you see objects? Huh? Okay, and that's the typical way people say that. People see through their eyes. But do you know that's the worst? You have to see with your mind. Okay, because blind people see. Right? There are people that never have seen an object, but they can tell you what a ball look like. They can tell you what shapes look like and what color look like. They never seen it. You can close your eyes and you can still see objects because you see it in your mind. So if you depend on your eyesight, you limit yourself in your vision. That's why people that have handicaps, they can count money, they can do things you can't do because they don't limit themselves to just the physical touch or the physical seeing or the physical hearing. They use another portion of their brain that we hardly ever even tap into. And that's what we have to train ourselves. We're so easy to just use what we customarily use to hear things and to feel. So you don't feel from touch. You know, if you depend on touching to feel an object, you really lose the sensitivity. Because there are many different ways you can feel other than to touch. And to listen. Sometimes we are so busy trying to get our point across that we can't listen to the person having the problem. Because that person can convey information to you that you will never be able to pick up. So you learn to slow down enough to see, listen, and to feel. And then that will improve your ability and your perception on dealing with problems. And like I said, it's an exercise. And this class is about that. This is what this class is about this morning. It's about trying to get your brain to focus in a different perspective than what you normally focus in on. Okay, what is disease, by the way? What is disease? Disease is a curing process. Now, do that make sense? That disease is a curing process? Because when a person gets sick, you ordinarily think that that person is what? Sick, a disease. But that is not the case at all. When a person gets sick, they're getting well. This is the reason why people are having such a hard time trying to heal people. Most of the time we are fighting the curating process. We are trying to stop what the body is trying to do to get well. Because most of us are fighting symptoms, and we're going to look at that. Drugging is the order of the day. The average physician thought of no other form of treatment, and the public have grown so used to the idea that health could be brought in a bottle. And that's not just talking about allopathic medicine, that's talking about herbs, vitamins, and diet and everything else. We really have come to the point that we think that health can be bought in a bottle, a package. That it never occurred to them that any other form of treatment was possible. Symptoms of the so-called disease was treated as disease itself. So when a person gets diarrhea, is that the disease or is that the symptoms of the disease? Okay, so if it's the symptom, if it's not the disease, then why are we focusing all our energy to stop the symptom? We're really not even concerned with the disease. All we want to do is to stop the headache. We want to stop the diarrhea. But that is not the problem. The symptoms is the underlying purpose of the body trying to get well. It is the body's attempt to try to correct itself. Smothering and reducing the symptoms. The main object of treatment was to smother and reduce the symptoms. That's really all we are concerned about. We're not really concerned about getting well. We just don't want to feel bad. And if we can eliminate our diarrhea by simply taking some allopathic medicine, and as long as we don't have diarrhea, we conclude that we're all right. But since diarrhea was not the problem, diarrhea was a cleansing process that the body naturally produced in an attempt to expel some impurities in the system. This impurities was stimulating what we call peristaltics. The peristaltics was somewhere in the alimentary canal causing irritation. The brain recognized that. Now the brain will make an attempt to get it out. The attempt to rid itself of the impurities is diarrhea. We look at diarrhea as the problem because it inconveniences us. But in actuality, diarrhea was a curative process. So what do? We stop the diarrhea. We stop the curative process. And you will never cure disease like that. Allopathic medicine is set upon this premise, and naturopathic medicine is also. And now medical missionaries, with all the counsel we get from Ellen White, we are still following this false science of treating symptoms, which will never cure disease. I insist that practically all disease were in reality a process of curative effort on the part of nature to right a wrong. So in actuality, what I'm simply saying that nearly all disease is the attempt of the body to right a wrong, to fix the problem. And if this concept is true, then that means all our effort to try to heal ourselves has been hindering the body from what? Alleviating the problem. We are interfering with nature's process. And because we are viewing disease as something bad. Disease is not bad. Disease is a good thing. And I'll show that throughout this dissertation. Anyone who understands the mechanism of a sneeze should understand the nature of such a disease. Is sneezing and coughing, is that bad? What are you doing when you're sneezing and coughing? You're cleansing. There's no way cleansing could be bad, right? But why do people say when you sneeze or you cough, they say you're catching a death or cold? You know what I'm talking about, right? You come down with a cold. That's impossible. If you coughing it, you're expelling the morbid mucus out of the system. If you sneezing, you're casting it out of the system. You don't catch a cold by casting it out. That's totally impossible. And as long as we're following that false method, we will never achieve our goal. We simply will be hindering nature in her process of recovery. Yes?
Like, what about those people who don't have any problems from their life, like as in coughing, sneezing? They always say, oh, my stomach's made out of cast iron. They said, I'll never get sick. Now, is that a problem as well?
No, I mean, the only reason why you get symptoms is because your body's trying to what? Cleanse it. It's trying to, something you have brought into the system you was unaware of, something that you enjoyed doing, something you exposed your body to and you weren't even aware because you couldn't see, you couldn't hear, and you couldn't feel. It came into your system without you being aware of it. And now that it's in the system, now your body will attempt to try to get it out.
So they generally don't. If they're not sick, what is it?
Well, if they don't have symptoms, then they could have been blessed with a strong immune system, strong constitution. Even though they're eating bad, they're living bad, they're smoking, they're drinking. Hey, that happens a lot. They could have a very strong immune system. They could have inherited some really strong genes, but eventually they probably will come down with sickness. But a lot of people seem to be exempt from a lot of sickness. And some of the most healthiest people seem to come down with a little, problems. But that's all right. It means that your body is working. To get what we call sick, it should be a time to rejoice, because it's a time to say, hey, my body is working in my behalf. I'm getting well. Versus if it don't happen, then it's possibly something could be going on and you're not even aware of it. For the foreign matter is violently expelled in the process of sneezing. So is waste and morbid matter expelled by the body in a set of symptoms noted by us in the many so-called diseases. Basically, the process is the same. And just as it would be absurd to try to smother a sneeze, it'd be ridiculous to try to stop sneezing when the body is trying to what? Force it out.
The human body must be constantly supplied with oxygen in order to function. The respiratory system draws this oxygen from the external environment. It includes the nose and throat, the larynx, the trachea, the bronchia, and the two lungs. The lungs are the main respiratory organs. They contain a number of lobes, made up of thousands of branches of bronchia, called bronchioles. Air that enters the respiratory tract travels to the pulmonary alveoli at the ends of the bronchioles. The pulmonary alveoli are small cavities grouped in bunches and surrounded by blood vessels. Gas exchanges between air and the blood take place through the membranes of the alveoli. Oxygen passes from the air to the blood, while carbon dioxide in the blood travels in the opposite direction. Each lung contains more than 250,000 bronchioles, which have millions of alveoli, providing a very large area for oxygen absorption.
So now as oxygen come into the body, then what happened to the carbon dioxide? It comes out. Now, where do we get carbon dioxide from? From waste. From the normal metabolism and utilization that's going on in the body. And so now that means that what we take in to the body in the form of food and in the form of breathing should have a sizable amount of carbon and hydrogen. Because the more carbon and hydrogen it has, the less carbon dioxide gases, residue, be left behind. But if we're eating foods and not breathing properly, then our carbon dioxide level will increase. All right? It will increase. Once our carbon dioxide level increases to a certain level, then we will start the most uncomfortable practice of hiccuping. We just hiccuping, and you can't stop it, just hiccuping. Okay? Now this hiccuping is the body's attempt to release the surplus amount of carbon dioxide gases. And it's an imbalance of carbon and oxygen. It's because we either been breathing improperly or we have eaten food that was imbalanced. And now your body needs to try to regulate that. Your body needs to try to bring back the balance of carbon dioxide and oxygen. And so our cells and our tissue, it benefit from the oxygen and hydrogen that we get from foods. Not so much from breathing. Breathing gives us our metabolism. It gives us our energy. It produces the heat in our body so that we can break down food elements. But in order for my toe cells to breathe, it cannot wait on oxygen from my lungs to reach there. My toe cells breathe by the foods that I eat that are released in the bloodstream and travels there and release the oxygen and the nourishment to the cells and to the tissue. So that means that if I'm eating food principally lacking in hydrogen, that's water, carbon, that's oxygen, then my body will suffer from a lack of those elements. At birth, we are about 70% oxygen and water. As we age, our oxygen hydrogen level drops. So we really should consume complex carbohydrates more than any other foods. As we look at disease in our classes coming up, we're going to look at arthritis, high blood pressure, and diabetes. We're going to see how those diseases develop and how we can eliminate those particular problems by simply going back and eating properly. One of the big problems I've seen among Reform Seventh-day Adventists, they eat good. Majority of Adventists really eat good and healthy, but they eat too much. They really do. I'm amazed at the amount of food. Me and my wife, we just talk about it all the time. I can't believe how much people eat. And I found myself wishing I could eat like that. I said, I miss out on so much because I can't not do it. I see them, they pack those plates up to they triple high, and they go back and get more. You can't do that. I'm telling you. You know, the Lord's servant said that when we eat, we should sit down and eat and get up with the same feeling we sat down with. All right? We should. But I'm telling you, majority of us, we eat too much food. And that is causing a lot of problems in our bodies. And that's bringing about premature aging, arthritis, and many other diseases. Even good foods. Even good foods, and I'll talk about this a little later, good foods can cause a problem. You know, I always tell people when it comes to arthritis, arthritis is an animal byproduct problem, a so-called disease. It comes from uric acids. But probably everyone in this room don't even eat animal products. And a lot of people, vegetarians and vegans, don't eat animal products, but they have arthritis. Where do they get it from? They get it from their nuts, grains, and seeds. You see, the protein in your nuts, grains, and seeds is a companion acid called purine acids. Purine acids and uric acids are first cousins. So that's why the Lord's servant said we shouldn't eat too many nuts and too many grains. You see, by eating a lot of nuts and grains, they are acid forming. And then that acid is released into the system. And if you're eating too much of it, your body don't know what to do with it. It will warehouse it in the body somewhere. It will store it in the crooks and crannies of the muscles and the joints, out the way. That becomes inflammation. That is what we call arthritis. Okay? So it comes from, you know, once again, we are not scientifically and biblically selecting our food properly. I plan to do a class, since y'all had on agriculture, a class where the same disease that plants have, we have. Plants have arthritis, they have high blood pressure, they have diabetes, they have cancer. They have the same disease we have. And we just miss it, but they're there. And I plan to share that with you later, so you can see that the 16 minerals that y'all learn through Brad, the inorganic minerals in the soil, is the same 16 minerals that keeps me functioning and keep you functioning. Those 16 inorganic minerals must be converted to organic minerals in order for me to function. How will I get those minerals from? From the soil and the plants. If those plants are deficient in those minerals, I will be deficient. Whatever deficiency it caused in that plant, if that plant cannot produce, if that plant cannot grow, if that plant cannot, the leaves cannot turn green because of the photosynthesis of the sun, cannot change it to a green leaf, then that same condition will also cause problem in me. I will have calcium problems, vitamin D deficiency, because that plant is suffering from vitamin D deficiency. Because if that photosynthesis can convert those leaves into green, then that same sun can cause me to assimilate the proper amount of vitamin D. So the same conditions is the same condition in plants and humans.
Choosing too much when you said nuts and grains and seeds?
Well, we shouldn't measure our food. But, you know, the Lord's servant said almonds are the best of nuts. And she said that we shouldn't eat too many almonds. I think about 5 or 6.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so peanuts is not a nut.
But we use nuts to make savories as well, so does that count?
Well, I mean, you can make nut loaves, you can do all of that. And then when you eat too much of that, the same curse will come. The curse causeless shall come. So I'm saying that if eating too many nuts, almonds, or too many walnuts will cause problems, if you make a nut loaf out of it, it's still going to cause problems. It's nothing different, because you make a loaf out of it, don't change it. It will still cause the problem. And so that's why we are getting sick. That's why so-called healthy people are getting sick. 95% of the people that you're going to see, and you're going to see some horrible looking disease. I mean, you're going to see people with cancer ate their nose off, eating off the half of their face. You're going to see some things you've never seen in your life. 95% of these people are vegetarian, 7-day Adventists. Okay? Eating healthy, but they still having problems. It is absurd to try to suppress the symptoms which constitute an outward and visible sign of curing process going on in the body. So it is ridiculous to try to stop this curing process that is going on in the body. We should, aid it and not hinder it. Now take a look at this right here. You take a look at this young man. He looked pretty good, right? He's smiling, he looked healthy. He looked fairly healthy. Now when you look at him now, you conclude, well, he's in pretty good health. Probably nothing really major wrong with him, because he looks happy. We determine that by a visual perspective of him. But if you look a little closer, you're going to see there's some hidden problems. So now, what caused that mucus? Where did that mucus come from? Where did all that coughing and sneezing? A few minutes ago, he was not sneezing, was not coughing, and he was laughing and talking. Now, he's spitting up mucus and he's sneezing and coughing. Where did it come from? Okay, so that salt water and with a little tea that I put in his nose stimulated a reaction. It stimulated a reaction in his body. Now, did the cold weather cause that? No. Did overexposure do that? No. Well, it probably did, but not this instant. It didn't do that. But when did he catch this? Did that salt water produce that mucus? Did the salt water produce the mucus? No. The mucus had to have been there all the time. So when did it get there?
From the antibiotics from the doctor's driving in the system.
Okay, but I'm talking about when did that mucus? Now he's spitting and coughing and he's going, let me just show you some more of it. I'm putting a little peppermint on the wing of his nose. And I got a hot pack over his nose. And notice his eyes is itching him and his ears, he's going to be pulling at his ears. All of these dynamics is involved in what he's going through. Okay, so now he probably didn't know he had all that mucus. You catch a cold in the summertime. It's summertime here, right? Get ready. This is the time you catch a cold. You don't catch a cold in the wintertime. You get rid of a cold in the wintertime. And like I said, I know this don't make no sense. But when I expose him to this hot steam and hot compress over his nose, that heat loosened up the mucus that was in him all the time. And then when I put the salt in his nose, it stimulated his whole respiratory tract, and now the mucus is coming out. Do you know I could have took a pail of ice water, and I can take it and I can take your shirt off of you and have you stand up here, and I could throw a pail of ice water in the back, your back, and you're going to say, and I guarantee your nose will start running. You'll start blowing your nose. It is that drastic change from hot and cold that causes your metabolism, your body temperature to elevate real quick. And that loosen up the mucus that was trapped in you all the time. In the summertime, in the summertime, you catch the cold. The bacteria, the germ, the mold, and all of that are brewing out there. It's just waiting on us. And it lay dormant in our body until the temperature began to cool down a little bit. When the temperature cools down a little, our body temperature raises a little. It elevates a little. Our running, exercise, anything that would increase our metabolism will increase our body temperature, which in turn will loosen up that mucus and make you start coughing and sneezing. So keep in mind, you catch a cold in the summertime. You get rid of a cold in the wintertime. Because getting rid of the cold means coughing, spitting, sneezing, fever. All right? All of that is a component of getting well. But we look at that as a component of what? Getting sick. I tell you, you must debrief your thinking. If you don't, you're going to leave here, and the minute you see someone sick, you're going to follow the same old false allopathic method of attacking the symptoms. Your body knows how to get well. When you have diarrhea, your body's purging. What do? Yeah, okay, a laxative. Give an enema. This brother right on top of it. So why would you give an enema if you got diarrhea and you're running off all over the place? you're assisting nature in her house cleansing. See, nature knows that her house is polluted, and nature is trying to clean it out. So nature's asking you, can you give me a little hand by giving me a little enema, because I got something up in there I want to get out. And so by giving an enema, or colonic, or laxative, or whatever it is, you're helping nature to get the impurities out. And the minute you release that toxin, the diarrhea stops. But if you take medication or something to stop the diarrhea, it may stop the diarrhea, but you did not address the underlying condition. The problem is what? Rechanneled somewhere else. And it will manifest itself in a different form and a different condition. So you didn't help your body by doing that. We should aid and abet them, not hinder or prevent them. Disease itself is the process of cure. This is the basic element of my teaching. This is what I teach, and this is what I practice. Then I can tell you, I get a lot of sick people. A lot. I can average anywhere from 30 to 46 people a day calling me from all over the world with all kinds of problems. And I always do an assessment. And once I do an assessment, I know instantly how to treat them, because their so-called disease teach me how to treat them. All right? If they are diabetic, and they say, well, I'm a diabetic. And I said, well, that's high sugar and glucose in the blood. And then now, once I know that, I said, what is the symptoms of diabetes? Frequent urination, frequent thirst, loss of nerve sensitivity, vision problems. Okay, now let's look at that. With diabetes, first of all, severe thirst. Why? Because they're suffering dehydration. That's a big problem with diabetes. It's because when you eat, I know you don't do it now, but when you eat a lot of canned or junk food, you always thirst, right? You want something to drink. Because sugar and carbohydrates makes us crave something to drink. And so if your sugar level in your blood is extremely high, you're going to be craving water to do what? Not to fill you up or to quench your thirst. That water is there to help flush out the surplus amount of glucose and sugar. That's the reason why your brain is saying, hey, you need to drink water. You saying, well, I'm drinking because I'm thirsty. That may be your purpose, but your brain said you need extra water so you can urinate and sweat and reduce the amount of glucose and sugar in your blood. Because the water is a diuretic. And the brain knows it must reduce the surplus amount of sugar in the blood. So it's a dual purpose. You want it for thirst, the body wanted to reduce the sugar in the system. Now, you also have problem with nerve problem with diabetes. Sugar will actually numbify our nerves. It will interfere with our nerve transmission. Sugar is not a nerve transmitter. Salt is, but not sugar. And so sugar can actually interfere with transmitting nerve signals. And so now that tells me I need to reduce the amount of sugar, and then I can encourage the proper nerve transmission. And so same with your eyesight, vision problems. The tiny little capillaries become blocked because of this high level of glucose in the system. So the whole treatment is right there by simply reducing the sugar, rehydrating the system, and regulating that person's diet, and you can overcome diabetes in a very short time period. It's just that easy. But in order to do that, you must know the foods to give that person. Once we study diabetes, we're going to learn. We're going to learn how to select foods. Right now, the average person in here, if I asked them to write me a program for diabetes, a severe diabetic, they would have brown white rice and whole wheat bread and whole wheat pasta and carrots and raisins and grapes and apples and bananas. You see what I'm saying? Those are good foods, right? I didn't name any bad food. But it may be poison for a diabetic. All right? Grapes is fantastic. But a diabetic, a severe diabetic, can't eat grapes. What about bananas? High in potassium, but it may be poison to a diabetic. So it's whole wheat bread. Yeah, plenty of fiber and roughage. But it's a starch. What is a starch? Sugar. Okay. Whole grain rice. It's a bowl of sugar. To you that is not a diabetic, it is a healthy, nutritious article of food. To a diabetic, it is pure toxin to his system. And so they say, well, look, what about if I give him brown rice instead of white rice, would that be any better? Now, you know better than that, right? It's no better. The brown rice and the white rice is toxic to a diabetic. To you, it is a difference. To you, brown rice is wholesome and good. But to a diabetic, it is still a bowl of sugar because it's a starch. Yes, I saw your hand.
What about the fiber content in the food? Does that stop? Does that limit the amount of sugar being released into the body, into the system?
Okay.
With high amount of fiber in the food.
Okay, but now let's look at it. Once you eat whole wheat bread, it's a starch, right? We know the grains is starch. Okay, so now your digestive system must break down that whole wheat. It must extract the elements out of it. The fiber, the roughage, the cellulose, the glucose, the vitamins and minerals must be extracted. And the liver carries this process on. Once it extracts the glucose out of the starch, that's sugar. And it may not extract it as fast, being a whole wheat, but it still will be extracted, and it still will elevate the blood sugar level. It's still going to do it. So irregardless, if you consume these starches, eventually it will run your blood sugar up because those starches is sugar. And I'm not saying it's bad, those are good foods, but for a diabetic that has a precondition with an overload of glucose, they cannot have it, or they need to be regulated to take very small amounts of it until they can metabolize and use those calories up. Okay, take a look at this slide right here. Can you see that all right? Okay, now we know this is gout. What do you notice as you look at this clip, this picture? Okay. Now, right.
The thing is deformed.
Okay.
The structure.
What has caused this deformity to take place?
Calcium deposits.
Okay. Calcium and acid deposits, right. How did it get there? Lack of what?
Too much protein.
Okay. Too much protein, too many starches. Too many proteins in the system, acid forming foods. And it's accumulating in the joints. And it's producing inflammation. That is gout. Now this can happen in the toes, it can happen in the finger, and other parts of the body because of high acid and protein consumption. And that's another form of gout. Now you can see, you notice this hand. It look what? It's swollen. Why is it swollen? We know they got gout, but why is it swollen? Why is fluid collecting in that hand?
It's not the kidney, but eliminating.
But they got gout. They don't have kidney problem. They got gout.
Water is retained.
Why is water retained?
Blocked by the uric acids.
Well, you're right on it. That water has come there for a purpose. Anytime you injure yourself, you swell, right? If you don't get on it quick, you're going to swell. And that's a protective mechanism. The swelling come there to contain the inflammation so that the inflammation won't spread to other areas of the body. So the water is there as a protective measure to keep the inflammation from spreading other parts of the body. it houses the inflammation right there until it can what? Release it out of the system. So once we see the swelling, we know there's inflammation, and the inflammation is being contained in that area. And now we can work on the kidneys or the whatever mechanism we can to release the fluids. Now you have some very important hormones that regulate fluids. You have the now if I'm talking too fast, y'all slow me down. And really, in this class, there's so much you're going to learn. I would say, you got the USB, you got your tape, you got your computer, put it on narration. You can record me off your computer. Try to get as much of the audio, video down as possible, because I have a lot I want to go through, and sometimes I have a tendency to talk too fast, and I don't want to do that. So you stop me, slow me down. If I need to, do some clarification, I don't mind doing that. But just keep in mind, this fluid is there as a protective mechanism to contain the inflammation.
Sometimes we see fluid trying to get it there.
Pardon?
Sometimes when you look at it, you say, oh, it's getting worse, so we try to get it there.
Yeah, and it will get extremely large depending on, how bad the inflammation. Okay, now here's one, arthritic hands, crippling arthritis, and a severe deformity taking place. Now this is quite noticeable here, but when I was feeling different hands and stuff, I was looking for this in the early stages. And just like right here, this bone right here, and this bone right here. In the early stages, you can feel this before it gets this bad. Then you can pick it up. But eventually, it will become so profound that anyone can notice it. Once again, this is a buildup of acid and calcium deposits in the joints, especially consuming foods high in phosphorus. Phosphorus is good for building strong bones, but if you consume too much phosphorus, it would interfere with the assimilation of calcium. And you don't want that. You want the calcium and phosphorus and sodium to be in proper balance so that you won't get too much of either.